Okay, everybody, let's take it from the top.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Hi-ho, everybody, and welcome back to D Plus Us, the show about all things Disney. I'm one of your hosts, Griffin to know, Griffey D-Pad, and with me, as always, is the wonderful, the amazing Mr. Mitch George. How's it going?
I got an itch, and the only thing to scratch it?
Ants. We are talking about Ant-Man, folks, getting ready for the release of Ant-Man Quantumania, coming out very soon, but we cannot do it alone. We have a super special guest from Penultimate Conquest today. Ruben, how's it going?
Going great, guys. It's going real great. I saw one of the greatest
Ants?
movies. I saw one of the greatest movies in the MCU today, and that was Ant-Man. So I'm doing fantastic.
What a movie. This movie holds up surprisingly well.
Yes, it does.
We don't deserve Paul Rudd.
No, not at all.
Yeah, we'll be talking about this movie. Full spoilers from this, all the MCU. We're here. We're going to be having a good time. This movie came out a while ago if you haven't seen it. Whatever. Let's hit the rigmarole, though. Before we get started, folks, first off, thank you for tuning in and listening. If you've been here recently, you might have noticed that we've had some weird stuff happening with a bunch of ads showing up on the podcast. That should all be fixed now, so if you haven't seen that, super sorry. Anchor was being really weird and just randomly putting ads on the front of our podcast. So I think we got it covered. I think it's finally fixed. If it's not, working on it. But yeah.
Please let us know if you hear them, because we don't want you to hear them. You just want to hear our beautiful voices in your ear holes.
Also, it's like a really horrible, grating robot voice. Like, it really sucks. No, this is D Plus Us, the show about all things Disney. We come out, we hang out, we talk about Disney movies, anything really under the Disney umbrella, Marvel, Star Wars, Disney, Pixar, whatever.
National Treasure.
We do have a weekly series going on right now for National Treasure Edge of History, so go check that out. But more importantly than anything, go check us out on YouTube at D Plus Us. Links are in the description of this podcast. YouTube is our big push right now, so it would really help us a lot if you go check us out there. Check us out on TikTok. Check out our breakouts and have a fantastic time with that. Now that that's out of the way, let's talk about Ant-Man, directed by Peyton Reed. Story, of course, by Edgar Wright, produced by Kevin Feige. Of course, you know the titular role of Ant-Man played by Paul Rudd. We also got Evangeline Lilly, Michael Pena, a great performance by Michael Douglas, a surprise performance by Anthony Mackie. This show just rocks. Released on June 29th. 2015 was the original red carpet release at the Dolby Theater, and then came to us on July 17th, a runtime of 117 minutes, and a box office of $519.3 million. Y'all, how'd you feel rewatching Ant-Man?
How does that box office compare to the sequel? I'm curious. But I'll look that up while we talk about how we felt about Ant-Man.
Mitch, we don't talk about the sequel.
Ant-Man and the Wasp made 622.7.
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Just gradually it'll be more. And I think Quantumania, you can't go wrong with Kang, and it's going to blow that out of the water. But
I think also you had
honestly,
the X factor of Ant-Man having been in Civil War and then going into Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
Well, that's the funny thing, too, because I have my tickets opening weekend to go see this with a couple of friends, my partner, my mom, my sister. And like my partner and I, we've been sitting down and rewatching some of the movies Ant-Man's in. But I got a text from my sister being like, all right, so what do I have to watch before this movie? She's never seen any of the Ant-Man movies, but she's watched almost all of the other, like the big MCU team-up films. I'm like, well, you got to watch Ant-Man, but then you go from that to Civil War. You go from that to Infinity War. Then you can finally watch Ant-Man 2, and then you got to watch Endgame. Like, there's a lot to know about this character throughout the MCU to go into this new movie. And I think Ant-Man itself, this film, is such a different kind of MCU film. Like, it still has that Marvel sheen on it, but it's a heist movie, which we hadn't gotten up until this point in the MCU. So it was nice breath of fresh air for the superhero formula to be like, no, let's do micro heists.
You ever think
I was all about
how hilarious it is that Ant-Man is more of a heist movie than Guardians of the Galaxy?
I'll tell you right now, this is why I fucking love this movie. I'm sorry if I can't curse.
Oh, you can curse.
Go
okay,
perfect.
We got through like the first 3 minutes without cursing. We're set.
Okay. I fucking love that.
As long as it is.
I love that this is a heist movie. This is like all my favorite things in one. We have an obscure character that is Ant-Man. We have a heist, which is probably one of my favorite genre of movies. And we have Paul Rudd. Like, you can't go wrong. Like, it's
Paul
the
Rudd.
perfect trifecta. Exactly.
Paul Rudd is
And
just the perfect actor. He's the perfect man. Paul Rudd is just perfect in every way. And if anything bad ever comes out about Paul Rudd, I'm just done. We're just done. We're just done.
It's impossible. That's
In the
impossible.
trailer for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, we know that Scott Lang has written a book. They have taken that book and made it into an actual book that they are going to be releasing and selling to promote this movie. And
That I
if that
pre-ordered.
isn't enough to make you love Paul Rudd, I don't know what is.
I know Ruben, you pre-ordered. Mitch, did you pre-order it already?
I haven't pre-ordered it yet. I'm this close.
Yeah, I'm not pre-ordering this one just because I can't justify that. It's
I'm gonna
hilarious.
let you in on a little secret. I pre-ordered this book. I didn't even fucking read, guys. And I pre-ordered this book.
It's a funny thing. I do read, and I'm like, I want to read this. I really do, but I've also got like 7 other books that I just bought.
Yeah.
But Griffin, it doesn't come out until September.
You overestimate the
pre-order.
speed at which I read.
I'm more so saying that you can, order it now and get this nice surprise of when it delivers to your doorstep and not read it like I've done with the copy of the Imagineering story that has been collecting dust under my coffee table for the last 4 months, thanks to Griffin saying, "Oh, we're talking about D23. You should buy this book." Oh yeah, I'll buy this book. I shouldn't have bought the dang book.
Neither of us should have bought this book. This book is thick. This book is
Good
like
coffee table.
ridiculously thick. It is.
And I feel like it was required reading for someone who hosts a Disney podcast. But
I'm
at the
gonna
same
go
time,
grab
like,
it. Vamp for me for a second.
yeah, Ruben needs to see the size of this damn book.
I kind of do now.
You really do. It's a thick boy. But I think the most interesting thing here for me, and we'll get into it when Griffin gets back as well, is with Ant-Man, they didn't focus on like they used Scott Lang as the main character. It's not a Hank Pym story. It's not a Janet Van Dyne story at its core. Of course, they elaborated on those characters in the sequel and ultimately in Quantumania. But I love that this is the Scott Lang story of dude down on his luck, having to make ends meet, all of this stuff. And then, he stumbles into superpowers, which I think is a lot more interesting than the origins of Hank Pym as Ant-Man.
If you think about it, it is. Hank Pym does suck. Yes, absolutely. But if you think about it, it's like the opposite story of what we got with Iron Man and Captain America, kind of. Like Cap is obviously the scrawniest kid that you'll ever see, and then he turns into the muscle of a man that he is. And Scott Lang is trying. He's really trying to do his best once he gets out of jail, and then he gets fired because Baskin Robbins always finds out. And then
Always.
I feel like Scott was very much the first hero for the people. When it came to the
exactly.
Like you have these other characters that like Tony Stark is very much a protecting and righting his own wrongs. Cap is a little bit more man of the people, but it's very much more the symbol and what all that means. Like the first thing we learn about Scott is that he's in jail for ripping off a shitty company.
For doing the right thing.
For very much doing the right thing.
Yeah. Well, I think it very much felt like they were setting up Scott Lang to be the MCU's Spider-Man, and I think to a degree they've succeeded in that this is a guy that is super relatable. He's a dad. He's just trying to make things right, and not quite to the same extent that Spider-Man does. And ultimately, I think even though Civil War came out a year after this movie-ish, I think it was close. Yeah, shortly thereafter. But at the time, I'm sure negotiations were ongoing, but there was no confirmation that they'd have a Spider-Man in the MCU. So given the way that they've portrayed Scott across all 3 of these films, it's going to be interesting to see how this all wraps up with Quantumania. I assume the majority of his story will wrap up in that film. And it's a great introduction here to who he is, what he fights for, why he's so, redeemable as a character. And I don't know if they're going to continue down that route with the 3rd movie. I think there's going to be some subverting of expectations there with who Scott is and what he's going to try to accomplish. But at the end of the day, with this movie, I think it's just, dude wants to be with his kid, and it's a it's a terrible situation all around, and he's making the best with what he's got. And what he's got is a shrinky suit.
Yeah.
I think that this new movie is going to play into a lot of one of my favorite aspects of both this movie and Ant-Man and the Wasp, which is his relationship with Cassie. Like, that is easily the most interesting part about Scott, right? Like, it is that he is a dad, and that is fully 100% the reason he makes every single choice that he makes in this film. And, like, some of the sweetest moments in this are because of that. Like, one of my favorite moments in this entire movie is when it's him and Hope in the car, and he's like, I'm expendable, you're not. It's like, it's very clearly a viewpoint that he can very clearly see because he's also a dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sees where Hank's coming from, even though Hank Pym is not a good person. And we've seen that time and time again in the comics. And using Hank in the way they have in the MCU did, muck around with a bit of Ultron's origin. And
Can I yell about Hank Pym? Can I yell about how shitty Hank Pym is?
I'm so disappointed that we didn't get Hank Pym Ultron stuff in the MCU because there's so much to pull from there. And maybe if Secret Wars is the reboot to the MCU that I'm expecting it to be, we'll get some of that. I do expect that phase of films to wrap up and then to soft reboot the MCU in a similar way to what James Gunn is doing right now with the DC universe. They'll have a movie that'll just be like a snap, and some characters will be who you know and some won't be, and maybe that's an opportunity for them to revisit the Hank Pym does Ultron right story. But
really
it's
if I'm being honest, I hope that because here's the thing about Hank Pym is he is easily one of the most hated characters in comic books, and rightfully so. A lot of the storylines they chose for Hank Pym are absolute garbage, especially the whole slapping Janet story, which we won't even get to and do on this podcast because that's honestly going to be an entire hour-long conversation. Hank Pym is consistently, ever since that moment, has been used to be shit, to be bad, to be the boring character that doesn't matter. The most interesting moment Hank Pym has had in the comic books was in Secret Invasion when it wasn't even him.
That's fair.
Like,
I don't know.
I hope they steer away from the Ultron stuff with him in particular, because or if they do it, they don't take it to its full extent. Because they're straight up.
I just want to see them do Ultron right. Like, I just finished rewatching Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and that show does Ultron well. And it doesn't do it in a way in which, Hank Pym. I mean, Hank Pym in that show is also a terrible person, but it does show that character with. They show that character with layers, and I think they could do the same with a revamped Hank Pym in the MCU. But at the same time, it'll be interesting to see what happens because film is different from comics in this way of the actors can't play the characters forever, and I kind of like that they set up an older Hank Pym here with Scott Lang being the Ant-Man. Because, Michael Douglas is an older guy. He's great. He's fantastic in this, but you never know with some stuff like this. We're already seeing Thaddeus Ross being recast in the MCU. So
great recast choice, by the way. That was a great choice. If you're gonna recast that character, like that,
Harrison Ford is a good choice for that character.
I am interested in seeing Harrison Ford play this character because I'm honestly not sure.
Look, all I want is for Harrison Ford to take the exact same energy that he takes when people talk about him as Han Solo as him with Thunderbolt Ross. I want him to be the most FU to the fans possible.
I think I saw a clip of him on the Colbert Show with him just like saying, "Ask me anything. I can give you any answer I have." And then Colbert asks him a question. He's like, "I don't know.
Man.
I can't tell you. I don't know. Okay. If I could, I would, but I don't know."
I want to pull us back for a second so I can take this off my damn lap. This is the book.
Oh my God.
It is.
Turn it sideways.
It is very, very thick.
What's the page count? Like 600-700 pages?
And it's not small font either.
Is that just a TV show?
It is pretty much all the findings from the documentary.
Okay.
And then some. Final page count before the acknowledgments and sources and whatnot is 725 pages.
Jesus Christ.
I'm saying it on camera. I will finish this book and I will report back. I will do a video about it because
You want to do an episode on it, Griffin? Because that would give me a reason to commit to reading it.
Honestly, like we should probably record something for it and do like a special or whatever. But I will read this stupid book because I bought it and I need to.
How long was the Imagineering Story episode? That was one of our longest.
That was like a 2.5 hour long episode.
That was a good time.
Now,
Should we talk about Ant-Man some more?
Yeah, I was gonna say bring it actually back to Ant-Man. We've done a good job about staying on topic this week. I'll have you.
We have so far. So
good.
I do want to say, like, the fact that they were able to pull off this cast is phenomenal. Like Paul Rudd, like we've already kind of discussed Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd still looks exactly like he did in this movie.
Paul Rudd doesn't age. It's ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. But
He's
we have
50s at this point?
Yeah, I think so.
No way. He cannot be that old.
Yes, he is.
He definitely is.
What? No, I don't believe it. I refuse to believe
Paul Rudd age. Give me the
I got it right here. He is 53.
What the hell?
And he looks like he's 29.
And looks younger than I do at 31. How is this fair?
National treasure right there.
And I'm going to say right now, he looks exactly like he did when he was on Friends.
He looks like he did when he was in Clueless in 1995.
I'm curious. What was y'all's first introduction to Paul Rudd?
The one that I remember was Friends, but it should have been Clueless because my sister used to watch Clueless.
Yeah, I mean, the first time I remember seeing him was Friends, but in terms of something that, like when I first noticed him as an actor and as a person playing a character in a film, the one for me that stands out was Knocked Up.
So
Knocked Up is the one that I really remember.
Great movie.
It's so good. It's so bad, but it's so good.
For me, like the first time I noticed him, looking back, I think the first time I actually saw him was Clueless. I just didn't recognize it because I was too young to recognize it.
Right.
But the first time I really remembered him in one of his performances was in The Perks of Being a Wallflower. Which, if you haven't watched that movie, I highly recommend it.
Really good movie.
I highly recommend looking into what the movie is, if looking at a couple of the trigger warnings for that movie as well before watching it. But I highly recommend watching it. But like in that movie, he plays this like very serious, very honest.
He's the teacher, right?
Yeah, he's an English teacher.
Yeah. I will preface anything we say about that movie of Ezra Miller is not a good person, and if you do not want to watch anything that they are in, then do not watch the movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. That movie means a lot to me. That them being in it definitely hurts.
In hindsight, yeah, because I'm with you. I absolutely love that movie, but there is some like Paul Rudd is a bright spot. Ezra Miller being there, not so much.
It's all a bright spot except for Ezra Miller.
Yes.
Everything else about that movie is amazing, and I'll stand by that.
Someone just needs to edit out Ezra Miller from this.
I got a bad.
How are they still releasing The Flash? I'm sorry to tangent, but how is that movie still coming out?
I wish I could tell you. I remember when Ezra Miller first got arrested or was like on the lam, not on the lam, but like he was
accused of like kidnapping someone's daughter and
and
or something like that.
The police couldn't find him, and then somebody had said on Twitter, they were like, "There's three roads that Warner Brothers can go down. One, they put him in rehab and then they stick with him and complete the movie. Two, they denounce him and just be like, hey, we're scrapping the Flash movie like they did with Batgirl. And three, they just don't pay attention to anything that's in the news. So I'm glad they went with not the better of the three, but like the better of. I'm glad that they
the least shitty corporate option.
Exactly. Yeah. That's what I meant to say. Yes.
Unfortunately,
they're like, we're still going to be a shitty corporation, but we're going to choose the least shitty corporation answer.
So,
no. At this point, I feel like they've put too much money. They probably feel like they put too much money into it, but at the same time, they just fucking canned Batgirl for no fucking reason. So.
I mean, they canned it because, according to the heads of the studio, it was unwatchable.
Yeah, fuck those people.
it was already done.
Yeah.
Let us decide. Yeah, it's already done. Don't. I mean, I understand from a business perspective, you can write off that as a loss on your taxes, whatever. But,
Yeah, it's a whole thing. Nah,
that's all
the
I got.
DC stuff is like mind-boggling, and we should probably do like a not D plus us episode.
I was just gonna say you can't do that.
Well, I'm working on the
It's coming
branding
up. We can talk all about the DC, and we'll talk to the folks over at HBO Max and let them cover the future of Marvel films. It's fine.
I am working on a branding for a show right now that's literally just going to be D plus us, but the D is just going to be X'd out, so it can be everything else.
But that could also just mean like the X-Men.
No,
that's
exactly.
Oh god, we're getting that show this year, right? Or is it next year?
X-Men 97 is this year, yeah.
Dang, that's gonna be fun. I can't wait for that show.
That'll be another one we'll probably do weekly.
Here's the thing, folks. We are going to talk about Ant-Man, I promise. But like,
are we?
This movie came out in 2015. We've talked about this movie before, I think. Like, we all know we love this movie. This movie is fantastic. It is top tier Marvel.
Yes.
Quickly is going to check my rankings to see where I've put this movie.
That's actually a good idea. I feel like it's mid for me, but that's just more so because I personally love the payoff that we get in the majority of the team up films that we get. So those always rank way higher than they probably should.
Yeah, I have Ant-Man at 15.
In hindsight. That sounds about right.
So my list isn't complete. I still have a few things I need to add on there because I've been redoing it as I've been watching through it chronologically, and I have been stuck on Moon Knight for the past like 3 months.
I'm so sorry.
So it's not complete, but yeah, I have it at number 15, just under Captain Marvel and just above the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I have it way lower than that, but I think on rewatch, I probably want to put it a little higher.
I don't know about that, Griffin. I don't know if I could justify that
Captain
movie
Marvel
as
14?
a good movie. Huh?
Captain Marvel at number 14? Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how I could justify.
I love that movie.
I mean, 9 Inch Nails though.
Look, that movie was genuinely perfect for me. For me, specific. Like I'm saying that it is not a perfect movie.
Okay.
But it was exactly what I wanted out of the movie. So
I cannot wait to see what they do with the Marvels. I really hope that rumored Super Bowl spot does happen and we get our first look at the Marvels within the next couple of weeks, because that would be really nice.
Yeah.
Because I really do expect us to get something related to the Marvels, as well as a new Guardians trailer ahead of Quantumania.
Yeah, we know we're getting that one. Guardians. We know
we're getting a new Guardians trailer for sure. Yeah.
And we know we're getting a new Ant-Man Quantumania trailer, which makes sense with the movie about to come out.
Comes out that week, right?
Yeah, the next week.
17th.
Yeah. But one of the interesting things to me about that movie is very much MODOK and how it's going to be. I think have they confirmed that it is?
They haven't confirmed it, but it is heavily rumored who will be.
No, they definitely confirmed it.
I was gonna say, did they confirm?
I think there was like one shot in the trailer, but they haven't outright announced it.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, correct.
Have they said though that Corey Stoll is in it?
No.
Okay.
Marvel has not confirmed that Corey Stoll's in the movie.
The very, very possible rumor is that Corey Stoll, who plays Darren Cross, easily the worst part of this movie, is going to be MODOK.
He's such a good actor, though. Like, I don't understand how it went so wrong here. Like, you look at something like The Strain, you look at him in, as bad as it is, that one with Kevin Spacey we don't want to talk about anymore. What was the name of that? House of Cards. The only reason people had Netflix for a while.
I'm going to be real honest
with
you. I love the villain in this movie. I love his portrayal of Darren Cross. Don't get me wrong.
His portrayal is good. He's good with what he's given. I don't think what he was given was very good.
Yeah.
Correct.
That character suffers from what a lot of villains have in the MCU up to this point of being mirror images of the hero, right? Like, we have this problem where you look at the majority of these origin films, you look at Iron Man 1, Ironmonger is just Iron Man, but a bigger suit. Killmonger is in a Black Panther suit, gets the heart-shaped herb, has the superpowers, same as Black Panther. It's just, it gets tedious after a while. And I think maybe it just goes to show the lack of depth in Marvel villainy compared to, Batman's Rogue Gallery, or specifically, and I think the Rogue Gallery that has the most credence within Marvel or within the MCU is Spider-Man's, right?
Yeah.
Because Spider-Man has so many good villains, but they're really, if you look at the grand scheme of Marvel things, there aren't
these
a ton
characters
of
have
awesome
good
villains.
Ant-Man in particular is a weird one because Ant-Man doesn't really have many good villains. Like Yellow Jacket even is not a villain. Yellow Jacket is Hank Pym.
Yeah.
Like Yellow Jacket's just an anti-hero. And like the way they use Yellow Jacket I actually thought was really cool. Making it like this military suit, like Yellow Jacket does sound like that. That is a very good use of that. For me, it is how, very frankly, goofy this character is. And I
think
my critique on this one very much is a 2023 looking back at 2015, right?
Yeah.
Like, we've had these movies more recently. We had it like with Black Widow, with Dreykov as the villain, or with Miss Marvel when it was straight up Damage Control as the antagonists. Of like, we can have this very fun comedic show and have a very serious villain within that. And like, I kind of looking back had wished they had done that here. Of have Cross be like this a little bit more serious, like corporate evil bad guy. Like really hammer home the evil corporation vibe of this. Like you already set that up with Scott's backstory. And again, this is very much 2023 looking back on 2015. It was a different MCU back then.
Yeah.
It just would have been so cool to see that.
The other thing too is you look at the characters that they had access to, had already planned on using, or had already used. Like when you look at Hank Pym's Ant-Man in the comics, you're looking at Avengers level threats for the majority of the conflicts he gets into. It's Ultron, it's Kang, it's Doctor Doom. And one of those they'd used, one of those they didn't have the rights to, and now do, and we'll see what happens with that character. It's just, there isn't, like, again, I think, to your point from earlier, Ruben, like they took this character that's fairly obscure, and when you take a character that's fairly obscure like this, the rogue gallery is going to be even thinner, right? Yeah. And I think that this movie suffers from that, and I think there's a number of MCU projects that have suffered from that over the years, and I think they're getting better at that now. But really, it's definitely a problem that they've had, and hopefully it continues to be addressed with future films.
If we ever get another Ant-Man movie, give us Egghead as the villain. I'm just saying.
We're getting another Ant-Man movie, and they're doing the right thing and using an Avengers level threat as the bad guy. We're getting Kang the Conqueror's introduction in this next Ant-Man movie, which I think is the right call for this character, because the stakes need to be there for a character that is this integral to everything going on in the MCU.
I'd like to throw out another possible villain idea for the future with Ant-Man, and it very much is dangerously close to Yellow Jacket. I'm going to warn you now. But I would love to see Eric O'Grady. Eric O'Grady is the irredeemable, there we go, Ant-Man, who works with Taskmaster.
Oh, God.
And is literally just Ant-Man but a merc. And I would love to see what that would be. But
yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting to see. And I think, again, I don't know how many future solo Ant-Man projects we're going to get. I do feel like Quantumania is kind of wrapping it up for this character. Kang is a serious threat, and we'll be, curious to see who makes it out of this one, honestly.
You think Scott's surviving?
No. I think this is setting up stakes for these upcoming films. It gives Cassie something to fight for as they bring together whatever the Young Avengers is going to be, because this is also it's the first character being portrayed in one of the films that is going to tie directly into Young Avengers. We've gotten Patriot, we've gotten the Maximoff twins,
we've gotten America Chavez,
but we've gotten, I guess America Chavez could be to that point, but
Kate Bishop especially to that point.
Well, and I was going to say the majority of the introductions have been on Disney Plus.
That's fair,
right? And this is them setting up some of what was set up in Doctor Strange, even though you and I agreed, Griffin, at the time, we kind of both hated their portrayal of America Chavez. There's so much more you can do with that character, and hopefully they do.
Multiverse of Madness is not a good movie. I stand by that.
Yeah. It's a very Sam Raimi movie.
Even Sam Raimi cannot save the writing of that movie.
It's a good movie.
No, it's not.
It's an okay movie. Certain parts of that movie are okay. It
is a fun movie at times to watch as a Marvel fan.
There are cool moments. Yes. It is a bad movie.
Yes. Now, I do want to touch on something now that you brought up Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. I will say that the fact that this CGI in this movie still holds up to this day. Like, I was, like I said, I was rewatching it before we started, and it just amazes me at how perfect that CGI is compared to what we got in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse.
Anything from the last 3 years of the MCU, really.
Every time he shrinks, it is amazing. It looks so good.
That tub scene
with Falcon is so awesome.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Also,
but even that first time,
ants. Like the ants are inherently like something that is gonna feel very creepy because they're bugs, and they just don't.
No, they do. There's one moment specifically that they do, and I get the heebie-jeebies every time I watch it.
Wait, which moment?
And that's when the ant gets big and crawls over what's his face. I'm just like, get that away.
Yeah, but that's supposed to feel
not about this. Not about this.
Yeah.
Like you care for Anthony. Like
Anthony.
I tried to get the ant and the H in there, and it just didn't work.
Yeah. It does not.
Yeah, Anthony. Like you actually care about these stupid little ants, or like the moment when they're like when he's in the water main and they lift him up. Like these things look cool, and they're ants. Now, do we forget about this power as immediately when this movie ends? Yes, we do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does it even play into the plot of the second? It's been so long since I've watched Ant-Man and the Wasp. Honestly, I'm going to rewatch it between now and Quantumania coming out. But it's just one of those things of even my sister watching this and texting me kind of play by play as she's watching this movie is like, the ant thing's kind of gross, right? I'm like, yeah.
When they get
they don't play with it much.
Starting in Civil War, they really cared more about the size. Like they kind of started going more in the Giant Man route. Like here's one of those weird comic book things, right? Like Ant-Man has had two names in the comic books, Ant-Man and Giant Man, which is funny because he's still the same character. No matter what, he still does the same thing. Just sometimes he grows big and sometimes he grows small. It's stupid.
I mean, also Yellow Jacket, but we're not going to talk about the mental breakdown that Hank Pym had in the comics that led him to adopting that persona.
Yeah, that's a whole thing. But it's that funny thing of like in Civil War, they had that awesome moment where he goes big and grabs, I think, War Machine.
Yes.
And it's
tiny dude's big now. He's big now.
It's really, really cool. I love that moment. And then like they got into Ant-Man and the Wasp and they were like, okay, this moment was cool. People like this moment. Let's make that the entire movie. Let's only focus on the shrinking stuff. Let's focus on the quantum tech stuff.
Yeah.
Which ultimately puts us in a fairly cool place leading into, Endgame especially.
Endgame. That moment is so cool in Endgame.
And it's setting up.
But then also I was going to say, it continues down this path of whatever it is that we're going to discover in the quantum realm in a couple of weeks when that movie drops. And I think they've been like this movie we probably should be talking more about Ant-Man than Quantumania, but I think we're all kind of hyped for Quantumania. And it feels to me like everything they've been setting up to this point with phase 4 of the MCU, from the post-credit scene in Shang-Chi with the ring sending out some sort of beacon to, He Who Remains at the end of Loki. Like there's been so much setup that this film really is at this point in the MCU, it's got to have the payoff that we need it to from some of these plot threads we've had, tantalizing us for the last 2 to 3 years.
So just to piggyback off of that, I think we won't get I think we won't get the payoff until Kang Dynasty, which, if I remember correctly, is like 2 months away after that. I could be wrong.
I wish. No, it's like 2 years away.
That's like 2026.
What's the next movie? What's the
Avengers movie? Is one of the last movies of this saga.
So what's the Avengers movie that's coming up?
That is the next Avengers movie. The next Avengers movie.
Oh my god! Why? I think they were like 2 months away.
No, we still have as part of Phase 5. So Phase 5, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania is kicking off Phase 5. We have Guardians 3, The Marvels, Captain America, New World Order, Thunderbolts, and Blade.
So I think everybody seems to forget he spent 5 hours in the quantum realm, which lasted 5 years. If you think we're going to get any payoff of what happens in this movie, I don't think that's going to happen.
It depends on when this movie starts.
See, I think it starts right after Endgame.
See, I
Like,
agree.
I think we've got
Or
maybe
just
a
a
couple
little bit.
years there.
We have a
where
time
I would
gap
say a
at
couple
least
months.
relationships
because
have
of the
fractured a
book.
little bit.
We know that
Yeah.
there's some time because of the book, because he's got this like this fame to him now. What I
you can
saw this
pre-order that.
interesting theory going around of while they're in the quantum realm, Cassie's going to try to send the signal back.
Yep.
And that signal is what was being triggered by the 10 rings.
Yeah.
That's the rumor, yeah.
And that's
I
a
also
very
saw
interesting
that.
theory. And that would line up fairly interestingly, timeline-wise.
Yeah. Because if I remember correctly, that beacon has been going off for 10,000 years.
No, they've been around for 10,000
the
years. But it
rings
just
are
started.
at least that old, but the beacon just started.
Okay, my apologies.
Which
yes.
definitely leads
Yeah.
into
those
like
films
that
could
whole
be taking
Kang
place around the
timeline
same
shit.
time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because these could very well
So
be
just-
future tech that got sent back. And
Yep.
Yeah, just to circle back, phase 6 of the MCU starts with Deadpool 3 November 8th of next year. And then you've got in 2025 Fantastic Four and Avengers Kang Dynasty. And then a year later, we basically got a year from Kang Dynasty to Secret Wars. So we go May 2025
Okay.
to May 2026 for those films.
how?
Okay, so I think the entirety of the Phase 5 up until Kang Dynasty happens within this movie, if that makes sense. Because they're in the quantum realm.
Kang Dynasty.
Time stuff, yeah.
Yeah, the time stuff. I think we'll have a huge, like, holy shit, what the fuck just happened cliffhanger. And then
I hope so.
the cliffhanger will lead into Kang Dynasty.
If I
Yeah,
had to
because really
guess-
there isn't much else except for maybe the Marvels that could directly tie us into, Kang level stuff. Between now and then, it's a lot of,
Well, there is one
new
thing.
Captain America, Blade, Fantastic Four, which will probably lead into it, but like there isn't.
There's one major thing that could. And it's not announced
Okay.
yet. It is something we talk about a lot, but it is Young Avengers.
Yeah.
Like, one of the founding members of the Young Avengers is Iron Lad, who is Kang.
Yes.
Yes.
Like,
I
could
also
very much
have
see
Kang.
this
I
movie-
have Kang theories here. I do have Kang theories that differ from what it is in the comics. Because I do feel like they're setting up Kang to be a descendant of T'Challa and not Iron Man
I would
in the
love that.
MCU.
Or you mean
You see-
Reed?
Or no, it's
He's a descendant
isn't it
of
Tony
Reed.
Stark?
No, he's a
Oh
descendant.
Yes,
no, Reed
he's a
Richards. No,
descendant
you're
of
right.
Reed.
Because here's the thing: in
Yes.
the Marvel comics, Tony Stark sucks.
Yeah.
I could definitely see that happening as them setting up the descendant of T'Challa. It would be super interesting to see that. That would be freaking awesome. It would also be a kind of a mindfuck for everybody walking into the Kang. But I will say this: I do think that we'll have, like, obviously this is the big bad Kang that Scott will be facing off in Quantumania. And again, I swear to God, we will go back to talking about Ant-Man in a couple
This
minutes.
is
Nope.
see, everyone knew this was
Not
going
a
to be an
chance.
episode.
Let's start talking about Loki season 2.
I was going to say,
that's
here's the
coming
thing.
this year
There's
too.
the other wrinkle in all of this is that Loki season 2 is supposed to come out this year.
Summer,
I
right?
think we'll have different variants popping up
That's
of
yeah.
Kang.
I think that's why they've given Kang the scars,
Yeah.
is so you can differentiate Kang from some of the other variants.
So here's
But
my-
also, do you think that Jonathan Majors will be playing them all?
yes,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that
Interesting.
man is too talented to not be.
He
Except
absolutely
for
is.
if they do Iron Lad, then I do expect that to be a different
Right,
actor.
right,
but
right,
other
Yeah,
right.
than
because
that,
you know
any
child.
adult-aged Kang will be
Of course.
Jonathan
I mean,
Majors
y'all
because you
remember
use him
the
as
ending
much
of
as you
Loki,
can.
that last episode of Loki. He was brilliant.
He was
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Like,
That was
I-
honestly the best part of Loki for
I
me.
have been on the record
It
of
really
not
was.
liking the Loki series because it's another one where
I don't
feel
like
the writing
Loki
is
having
really
fallen. Yeah, him falling in love with himself is weird.
bad. Mhm.
I mean, that's
Here's
On
the thing-
character,
here's
but
the thing,
still
that
weird.
is weird, and that makes some of the most sense in the entire show to me.
yes, he's
And
in
that's
love
why
with
that show
himself.
is so bad to me, at least.
Yeah.
But that last episode was fantastic. Everything
Yes.
with Jonathan Majors is knocked out of the goddamn ballpark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, he is setting up to be not only a frankly more interesting main villain than Thanos, but a more entertaining villain than
Yes.
Thanos.
Oh, yeah. No, I agree fully there that like the threat of Thanos felt real, but I feel like the threat of Kang isn't the fact that Kang can lose. Kang can lose very completely and you can wrap up a story, Kang loses. But then Kang comes back because Kang is infinite, right? Like he is one of those characters that just doesn't go away in the grand scheme of the MCU multiverse and the timelines and all this stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see how that wraps up with Kang Dynasty, if it does wrap up at all, and how that leads us to the events of Secret Wars, because whatever they're setting up for there is going to be pretty different, at least in terms of the catalyst to what we got in the comics. So I'm very curious to see how this multiverse saga wraps up. But we're not talking about phases 4 through 6 of the MCU. We're talking about Ant-Man.
We're talking about this. We are already talking about this because I want to bring up one of my favorite Kang stories. If that's right, folks, we're going back.
I tried, okay. If you're out there wanting an Ant-Man review,
I promise it's going to tie back.
Tried, y'all.
I promise it's going to tie back. I promise.
Right.
Let's talk about one of my favorite Kang stories, which is we're bringing it back to Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which I promise we'll do our episode on this show eventually. We keep talking about it. It will happen. But we have this great Kang story with the new Avengers in that. Yeah. And what's interesting about that was having these multiple characters about that. One of the best characters in that show is Scott Lang. That's bringing it back. Look, the Scott Lang story is one of my favorite episodes with him.
It's a really good episode, but he doesn't feature nearly enough in that second season as I would have liked to have seen him.
Mostly I just like the fact that Scott Lang is in Heroes for Hire. But, which brings me to my point. I want to see Ant-Man more in this, in the world. I want to see, not necessarily Scott. I would love to see Stinger as well, which I have my own feelings about Cassie being Stinger instead of Stature in the MCU. We'll see.
It might be Stinger colors, but I still think she could be very easily be Stature.
No, they've said she's Stinger. They've said that she's.
Has she? Have they? Oh, never mind.
Which makes sense. She's her current iteration in the comic books is Stinger. She hasn't been Stature in like a decade. Understood. Like, I get it. I don't like it. I'm being old. I recognize that. But seeing these characters interact is always the most interesting thing to me, which makes me very interested in the finale of Quantumania. Because I think you're right. I think Ant-Man I don't think Ant-Man's going to die. I think he's going to get stuck there. And I think he's going to stay in the quantum realm to get Cassie and Hope out.
See, I hope that's not the case, because then they're basically just doing what they did to set up the next Avengers movie with what they did for Endgame of, a cat or a raccoon or whatever. Oh, no, it was a rat, right?
Except that it's a little different here, because I think he's going to stay.
Doctor Strange bet the whole universe on a rat.
I think he's going to stay, and I think he's going to be a prisoner of Kang.
Ooh, we could see Scott show up in Loki season 2 if that's the case.
Well, let me go a step further with this for you, with this theory. I don't think we see him again until King Dynasty.
Yeah,
I think we get
really
the story with Cassie that will eventually lead within the Young Avengers of trying to get him back.
I think we see. I'm going to bounce off of you, Griffin, for a second. I think we see the implication that he's dead, kind of like what we got with Scarlet Witch, but the fake out is he comes back in King Dynasty.
The same way that Scarlet Witch is going to come back in Coven of Chaos or whatever it is.
They break in. They're in a prison. It's all dark. You come into the camera pans into the cell, and it's Scott. For some reason,
you guys long enough. Yeah.
I mean, Paul Rudd can rock a beard, so that's all good.
Paul Rudd could rock anything.
Speaking of Paul Rudd, full tangent again, because from the other tangent. Recently rewatched Ghostbusters Afterlife. He is so good in the movie.
He is, but it's not a good movie.
Oh, interesting.
Oh, I disagree.
I don't like the way that movie ends.
That's fair. I like it, but I'm dumb. So.
Yes.
Wow, thank you for
Sorry. What I meant to say is, yes, I am also dumb. I apologize.
We're all pretty dumb.
You know what I meant.
Okay, let's talk Ant-Man. Let's actually talk about this movie. We've been going back and forth. I don't think we necessarily need to do a plot recap on this one. As far as plots go,
you've seen this movie. Go watch it. It's great.
As far as plots go, this is one of the simplest plots in the MCU.
Yes.
Breaks out of prison. Gets out of prison, does some heist stuff, goes back to prison, gets broken out by Hank. We have a couple montages that are awesome. They do the heist.
They do the whole explaining of the physics of why he's more powerful when he's small versus when he's big, which I really like, because none of this really makes sense. But in the grand scheme of things, it's a comic book, so they have to give you a way to believe that this could actually be a thing while allowing you to suspend disbelief when he's doing things like shrinking down and throwing grown men across the room.
You guys remember the trailer, not the trailer, the leaked trailer that came out of Comic-Con, and everybody was all up in arms where, well, at least from my perspective, everybody was like, why the hell are they doing Ant-Man? Who the hell is Ant-Man? Why would we want this? And then this movie comes out and they proved everybody wrong.
They did that. They did with that. They did that. People did that with Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like
the whole MCU has been built on the back of why would you make a movie about this character?
Yeah,
and
I feel
then
like people forget that no one gave a shit about the Avengers before the MCU.
No one cared about Iron Man before the MCU.
Do y'all remember who the big three characters were for Marvel before the MCU?
No.
Wolverine, Spider-Man, and...
Oh, come on, there's one more. You got this.
Deadpool?
No. Deadpool's never been top 3. It's the Hulk.
No.
The top 3,
the Hulk makes sense because they rebooted him.
Spider-Man, like, Wolverine, and the Hulk.
Yeah. That kind of tracks because the amount of movies they've made with
Iron Man of Hulk is so bad.
Agreed. Yeah, but this isn't, we're not talking about that. This is comics. The top 3 sellers are Spider-Man, which makes sense. Spider-Man is still a top seller. It's freaking Spider-Man.
Yes.
Even if the current comic book arcs are just absolutely killing this character. Sorry.
Also, Griffin, I forgot to inform you that something has come to Disney Plus in Canada, at least, which gives us an excuse to talk about it.
Oh, I'm about to be pissed and I don't get it.
And that is the 2007 Sony Pictures masterpiece. That is the Nicolas Cage Ghost Rider film.
Oh, hell yeah.
Hell yes.
Like, we need to, right? Like, it has to happen.
We have to talk about that. I love that movie.
Yes.
It's so bad. It's good. Sam Elliott, what are you talking about? Come on.
It's a good movie,
dude,
but it's also a really bad movie.
Somehow worse.
I don't know.
And also better.
I didn't see Spirit of Vengeance just because
it's one of those movies that takes itself way too seriously.
Yeah.
And like it's funny how seriously they take themselves for the main character being a biker whose head catches on fire.
Yeah. Does that not happen to you when you get on a motorcycle?
Well, I don't ride motorcycles, so I couldn't tell
exactly.
you the other.
You couldn't. It could possibly happen to you. You never know.
Have you guys? I know, Mitch, you have. Have you been playing Midnight Suns, Ruben?
No.
Okay. Johnny Blaze in that is such an asshole.
I gotta finish that game. I only got to like chapter 2.
That's just who Johnny Blaze is. No, Ant-Man. I promise we're going to talk about this. One of the things I really loved about this movie is how it's set up, like Hank in particular. Like, I always forget that this movie has a cold open.
Yeah,
it has a great
one of the best
cold open too
in the MCU. Honestly, it's so good.
Of him like just punching the shit out of that one Hydra guy.
You get Howard Stark back. You get Peggy Carter back. You get a de-aged Michael Douglas that looks phenomenal. And then you remember that the MCU used to have really good CG. Makeup.
That movie still have pretty good CG.
Yeah, I know people like to give She-Hulk a lot of flack for that, but honestly, at the end of the day,
She-Hulk got better.
I think
it definitely did. It was better on Disney Plus than it was in the trailers. 110%.
Absolutely.
I feel like that's the case for Marvel more often than not. I feel like these trailers we're getting are either unfinished CG or just the shots that they're using and the way they're using them aren't flattering to what the CG actually looks like.
I think it's the fact that it's just unfinished.
I also think that the internet is full of crybabies, and more often than not, that is a massive issue.
Yeah,
that honestly, that's the biggest. Like I saw something tweeted out today related to wrestling, where someone tweeted out what is your bold prediction for this year's WrestleMania? And I was very tempted to reply of the internet will not be upset with anything that happened in this event because the internet loves to take anything that happens. It'll happen with Ant-Man. It'll happen with WrestleMania. It'll happen with the next Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. People will be upset for a reason because people just like being upset on the internet.
Dude, I missed Royal Rumble and I was so disappointed.
Are you saying that the Macy's Day Parade is all CGI? Is that what you're
Yeah,
implying?
that's the next Macy's. It's all going to be
Confirmed.
CGI. People are going to look up
Because
into
if
the
so,
sky and
like,
it's just going
that's
to be
impressive.
screens.
That's very impressive.
I would love to see how that would actually work.
I don't know. I feel like you would have to like
It's just
CGI
a giant
everything.
volume.
Yeah.
As long as you get Pikachu, we're good. We're Gucci.
Yeah. Just make sure he doesn't have
the
fur.
Pikachu balloon that changes like every 3 years to a different version of Pikachu.
Bring back fat Pikachu is all I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
Pikachu.
Hear me out. Just the next Pikachu balloon is just Gigantamax Pikachu. It makes too much sense.
Yes.
But they're like 2 or 3 years removed from doing
Yes,
G-Max
but like
Pikachu.
a balloon version of Gigantamax Pikachu because it's already gigantic. It just makes sense.
I mean, this.
Yes, there's Gigantamax Pikachu. And that way, we get Fat Pikachu back.
John got you. Never forget.
I just heard
Such a
someone from my
weird.
apartment.
Huh?
I live alone.
I'm sorry.
I don't know if I should be concerned or not.
I think you should.
I'm pretty
You wanna
sure
go check that out?
I'm pretty sure that was just my water heater. But if I get
Okay.
pulled away randomly in the middle of a podcast, folks, I am not okay.
I'm gonna catch the Pikachu.
Gotta catch the Pikachu. Welcome to the Pokemon podcast, folks, where we just talk about Pokemon again.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If that's the case, let me go get my hat. Let me go get my cards.
we talk
So,
about Pokemon a lot on this show.
I mean,
So
to be
my
fair,
sister and I were going through our parents' basement recently. And I know this
Oh,
has
boy.
nothing to do with Ant-Man. We're just going off on a complete
This is
tangent.
just a weird
we were-
podcast already.
We're going through my parents' basement, and we found our Pokemon card collection from when
Of course
we
you
were
did.
kids.
Of course you
Because
did.
that's what you do when you go through your parents' basement.
Yep.
And my sister has gotten really invested in watching this one specific creator on TikTok rip card packs. So she took this, and she knows more about cards at this point than I do, which is saying something. So she took this binder and found cards that were from like base set 2 that were from Fossil that are worth, graded
A lot of money.
up to thousands of dollars. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So if we're going to send those off to get graded, 1, we're going to have to pay for international shipping. So that sucks.
Yeah.
But 2, we are splitting that in some way because those were all my cards, but she's the one who's gotten more invested in cards these days. But when people told you when you were kids that Pokemon cards will be worth something someday,
They weren't wrong.
They weren't lying to you.
Y'all
No.
remember playing Pokemon with your friends, card games, but it was just whoever has the cooler card wins.
Griffin, that would be implying that I had friends when I was growing up.
Well,
That would be implying I knew how to play the game, which
I never knew how
very
to play the
clearly
game.
did not.
Literally, my friends
Yeah.
and I would hang out and be like, I have this card. Oh, yeah, well, I have this card. And for some reason, Charizard always won.
Of course,
Not for some
'cause
reason. That
that's-
Charizard card
that's
was
always
awesome.
the case. Yes.
Actually, talking about Ant-Man, another one I talk about, like, we're kind of just reminiscing on the movie at this point, right? Like, there were so many awesome moments. The humor, of course, fantastic. What are the
Luis, we haven't even talked about Luis.
I was gonna say the best thing is the most iconic thing is Luis.
The one thing I have with this movie is the fact that when we see Hank dropping off, like Hank being the source of the gossip that Luis gets when they get the try to do the heist for the first time. There's no way that Hank thought this thing through. There's absolutely no way that it got back to like he saw the social network. It was just insane to me that I just saw that and picked up on that today.
I mean, he is a criminal mastermind at one point or another in the comics, so I could see him thinking that far ahead
Also,
and
this
knowing that
dude
he has
was a
stupid
spy.
friends.
Like in the MCU wise, he was a spy. It's
Yeah.
weird, but it's not the most out there thing in this movie.
It's a stretch.
It's a bit of a stretch.
It's a
that's-
bit
I'll
of a
agree with you.
stretch.
We also get our first mention of Spider-Man in this movie, which was awesome at the time because
Oh,
no
man.
one expected a Spider-Man reference in this movie.
Then we
course
finally
not.
get Spider-Man a year later.
Which we all said, there's no way. And then we get Underoos in that trailer, and the internet collectively explodes.
Oh my god!
Can you imagine
could
if
you-
we didn't get that in the trailer? If they just
I
put Spider-Man there?
wish they had done that. I didn't
wish-
want to know he was
like
in
the
it.
way they put
That
Anthony
would've-
Mackie in this. Like
Yeah,
they just didn't
that would've
say-
been
the theater
perfect.
would have the theaters would have erupted
Yeah,
if people did not know Spider-Man was in that movie.
absolutely.
It's like what they wanted to do with Spider-Man No Way Home.
It's what they tried to do until they didn't CG one of the Spider-Man out well enough, and he kicks Lizard invisibly.
Look,
Yeah, never
if
forget.
we're really being honest here, everybody knew that Toby and Andrew were going to be in that movie.
I still got hype as hell for that because those are my
the moment
Spider-Man,
Andrew
right?
shows up is iconic.
Nah, for me it's Toby.
Fuck
When Toby drops into that, I'm just like, that's my Spider-Man right there. Like, for as much flack as those Raimi movies get, like that's the stuff I grew up on. Was the early X-Men films, the Spider-Man stuff. Like that's what cemented my Marvel fandom. Even though they were so bad, they were good.
I love them, but Andrew Garfield is so Spider-Man.
Yeah,
he is one of the best,
Parker.
He's a great Spider-Man, but he's a terrible Peter Parker.
Oh no, I think he's a great Peter Parker too.
He's a great Spider-Man. Toby was a great Peter Parker, even though he was 40. Yeah. And Tom is kind of the best of both worlds, even though he's just become Iron Man Jr.
Mm-hmm. But now he's kind of breaking out into his own. I think we're really going to see what Tom does.
Whatever we do next. I want Heroes for Hire interacting with Ant-Man and Spider-Man at some point.
I'm telling you right now,
will be complete.
Do we know if we're getting another Spider-Man?
No, we don't. We do know that there's a Spider-Man 4 being talked about, but we don't know for sure.
I know there was rumors. I didn't know if it was ever became a fact.
I don't think so because
I would assume they would make that. Those make way too much money for them not to do it.
Yeah, but Tom is the one that said right after Spider-Man 3 came out. Well, sorry, Spider-Man No Way Home came out. He said, "I'm not gonna be doing movies for a while."
Well, yeah, he got way too big from that wonderful, wonderful Uncharted movie. Like that could have been a huge franchise for him. And
yeah,
look, for as much flack as that movie gets, I enjoyed it a lot as a movie. I didn't enjoy it as an Uncharted movie, but I still had a good time watching Mark Wahlberg, and Tom Holland do their thing.
I just don't like Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg,
like he's just boring.
It's a Transformer.
It's just boring. No? I'm sorry.
That's spot on, Mitch. That's spot on.
God, we got a new Transformers movie this year that won't feature Mark Wahlberg, and I'm very happy.
Hey, that's another trailer we're going to be getting at the Super Bowl.
I don't know why they continue these movies.
Look, this is supposed to be in like the Bumblebee universe, Transformers wise, so this might actually be the
problem. Yeah, but the thing is, we don't know which universe is which anymore.
We do. There's the shitty.
That's
Michael
the whole
Bay
point. They don't want you to
one.
think about. They don't want you to remember the Michael Bay universe.
The Michael Bay universe might as well not exist anymore.
It's impossible for me not to remember that.
Yes,
Here's the honest
casual movie-going audience doesn't
care.
care.
That happened in those movies.
Name a single thing.
Robot balls.
No, I don't remember anything in those.
Robot balls.
Okay. Well. Yeah,
robot testicles at one point.
Yes. I tried to forget about that constantly.
I just remember the explosions and the fights.
Optimus Prime finding out how he was a real Prime,
Leonard Nimoy was a thing at one point in those films.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
He was. He was the voice of one of the other Primes.
One of the other Primes. Yeah, the one that they resurrect. The one that they resurrect. That's who I was thinking.
Yeah, the one they find in space.
Oh no! You see, I thought it was the one that they found in the museum.
Sentinel Prime. No, the one they find in the museum is Jetfire, right?
It doesn't matter.
And then he dies. So he dies, and Optimus gets like this cool jetpack for all of 15 minutes.
Yeah, never forget.
All right, I got one more scene I really want to talk about with Ant-Man.
What's that?
The wildest post-credit scene we've ever gotten. The most.
Yes.
Let's talk about a completely related but also completely unrelated movie post-credit scene.
Yes. And quite frankly,
we see Cap and Bucky was like, "Wait, what?"
It's just a trailer for Civil War. Like,
yeah, I'm okay with it. It worked.
It's great.
It got me excited.
When a Falcon says, like, "I think I might know a guy." So good. Like, it's not fully a trailer. It's not like the No Way Home post credit scene is literally
just a trailer
the
for
Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness trailer.
Yes.
But like, it's such a great post credit scene. Like, I hope we get more post credit scenes like that.
But I hope so.
I could easily see the Quantumania post credit scene being a teaser for the Marvels in this same way.
I was gonna say I don't even think we see a trailer for this at all. Like I said, because of my theory that this whole movie is throughout the whole
tiny, whiny, marvelly
Yes.
bullshit.
Yes.
Yeah, if we get post-credit stuff, I think we'll get something maybe leading into Loki. But I think
that would
I
be
think most likely is we get something that's helping set up Young Avengers.
See, that would be interesting because we haven't yet had a film try and set up a Disney Plus property. It's primarily been to set up future feature films.
Right.
So that would be an interesting road to go.
Like I do think that
And
they
then
need to start having some synergy between the two. Like,
yeah,
they're both
Absolutely.
like the TV show.
because if this does, I mean, if this does end with a Loki teaser at some point, you could then have after that, watch Loki season 1 only on Disney Plus in some way to incentivize people to go and watch that show.
Yeah,
So
How
I
much-
think there to be more synergy between the shows and the movies, and we're getting there. We are very much getting there. I mean, we're getting Ironheart later this year, and she was in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
Yep,
Secret Invasion seems like it's going to be very tied to the movies.
Yes.
I'm
so
very,
excited.
very interested to see what happens there.
Yes, me too.
I mean,
But
what's
now-
interesting too is we've talked on this show, Griffin, about the shift that we're seeing from theatrical releases to Disney Plus releases. Of we are seeing more Disney Plus projects being confirmed than feature films, and I think that is to Disney's benefit. They can spend less money by not putting these things out in theaters and still having those same zeitgeist moments for shows like Loki. Maybe less so for something like Secret Invasion, which should be the next thing we get. But I do see this shift coming over the years. I mark my words, by the end of the multiverse saga, they will have announced a feature film project, not a series project, for Disney Plus in the MCU.
Nah, I don't see that.
I don't know if I don't know. I feel like they like having this long format series, this
Yeah.
longer format storytelling on Disney Plus.
Although-
Otherwise, why not put it in movies? I could see a simultaneous
Because
release.
money. Because
Yeah,
money.
but the thing is,
Yeah, but they're changing that.
the-
Disney in general is changing that strategy right now.
Yeah.
in
Like they
order
saw
for
their
them
initial
to pull that
strategy,
off.
it worked for early COVID times. It's not
Yeah.
working as much anymore. And from a strictly business sense, they're going to change that. Like we're
We'll see.
already seeing Iger coming in and making a lot of changes. And again, not just Iger. Read the fucking news shit. I don't want to get into business and stocks and
Listen, you're gonna have to.
annoying
This is a Disney-centric podcast, and one of these days you're
Look,
gonna have to dive
when the
in.
whole thing was
Yeah.
coming out about the what was it, that
Florida?
this investor guy trying to get in, I started trying to understand this stuff. It was just like, nope, this all goes right over my head. Activist investor, there we go. But no, I do, like I was trying to say earlier, I do want this synergy between the two, but I want them to do it in a way that's doesn't feel slimy.
Worst.
Like making these things just ads for Disney Plus doesn't feel right. But having them being this interconnected story that the MCU is known for, like I feel like you gotta flirt a line here. I feel like that's why they haven't done it yet.
I think if they were to pull off what Mitch is saying about like Loki season 1 on Disney Plus, I think that wouldn't go over well with pretty much anybody who's an American, if I'm being quite honest. Anybody who has a Twitter page or a Twitter profile. I think they would be up in arms. But like the stupidity is like you kind of know already that you need to watch anything that if you're watching a Marvel project, you need to know like the previous Marvel stuff. So like it's kind of stupid, but also Americans are kind of stupid, so they will complain about this.
Oh, everyone's
I
gonna
can
complain no matter
confirm
what.
there are many Canadians with that same sentiment. And it is not an exclusively American problem.
Okay.
Like
Okay.
I do
Thank you for the
feel like it's a
confirmation.
very real possibility though that we get a post-credit scene leading into Loki.
I could see it. I could definitely see it, but I just I don't know. I think the thing that the Disney Plus shows have, well, a lot of the Disney Plus shows have, is it feels like it was a movie that they just cut up into 6 parts or however long the episode count is. The only thing I would say was different was Loki for me, if I'm being honest.
There's a
And
couple others, I
obviously
would say.
Scarlet Witch.
I would say.
I think
yeah, I would say, yeah,
I think
WandaVision. I would say
Loki.
Ms. Marvel.
Oh,
Too.
yeah, WandaVision.
See,
Yes,
think,
Ms. Marvel was one of them
And
that
She-Hulk,
looked.
but She-Hulk is a very, very different show.
well,
Correct.
I don't think this movie exists the way it does without how successful Loki was. Because without knowing what the numbers are behind the scenes, and I'm sure we could go and find those somewhere, but just understanding that there is a lot of universe building that happens in Loki, that this movie needs to happen in order for it to be the plot that it is, with Kang, with the timelines going amok and all of this stuff of, the multiverses expanding and multiple continuities and all this kind of stuff really is going to matter to the story of Kang. And to have that, to set that expectation with your viewer of, look, you need to have watched all of this stuff before you come and watch this. It's a lot to expect of your viewer to have this background. It's like trying to jump into, what are they at now, like season 46 of Days of Our Lives or something like that, one of these daytime soap operas, and expecting the average viewer to understand what's going on, because you really can't. And Marvel is becoming the soap opera of cinema in some ways, of, without all of this extra backstory, you are lost.
I think they don't care anymore. I genuinely don't think they care anymore.
They really
saw
don't.
This with Infinity War. If you didn't know who these characters were already, you're fucked.
Bad.
Too bad.
And I think doing this in such a way, we're doing it with specifically post-credit scenes, works, because it's just long enough for you to be like, oh, what's this? But it's not long enough that you have to be like, oh, I don't know about this. I am totally lost and confused. Here's the thing. Loki's season finale was a record-setting episode on Disney Plus. The audience is there to understand it, and I think that they recognize that audience is there to understand it, and even more, a good chunk of that audience is there to explain it to the people who don't understand it.
Which is why when I buy the tickets to go to the theater, I sit my wife and I next to each other, and then our friends buy tickets, and then I tell my mom and sister which row we're in and let them buy their own tickets at the end of the row. So I don't have them in my ear the whole movie being like, so what's that? Who's that? I go see these movies. I see every Marvel movie with my mom pretty much. It's great. She's all caught up. She gets it. But at the same time, I don't want to be asking all these questions in the theater.
I really want to watch Secret Invasion with my mom, because she's going to be completely confused as to what's going on. She keeps up.
I think that's everybody.
I want it to be so good, and I have no idea what to expect.
So here's the thing: looking forward, and we're getting near the end of the show, but going forward, we know the early 2023 TV show stuff is Secret Invasion and What If.
Yes.
So here's my ultimate question for you: which do we get first? Because neither of them have release dates yet.
I think we get Secret Invasion first.
I do too. I think the reception to What If was sort of mixed, and they probably want to nail this second season and give the episodes as much time as they need before putting it out. Mm-hmm. Because after that, you really don't have anything until Loki season 2 in the middle of the year. So I do think they'll let What If bake a little bit longer and put Secret Invasion out, because it feels like that thing has been in production since forever.
Also, do you think we're going to get a release date after Ant-Man comes out? I feel like they're waiting for Ant-Man to come out, and then they're going to announce when Secret Invasion comes out.
I think we're going to get a trailer for Secret Invasion with a release date at the Super Bowl.
Oh, you're crazy.
I know. Prediction. A very fair prediction.
That's my Super Bowl pick.
Yeah, I guess think all the talk about trailers and stuff has been very specific to movies. No one's really been talking about Disney.
They're not talking about shows. Yeah.
So Secret Invasion. Okay. So now that I'm reading this, Secret Invasion is scheduled to premiere early 2023. So I take that back, Mitch. You're not crazy. It could happen, but for me, the problem with What If is that's the only MCU property that you don't have to watch. And if I'm being honest with you, I watched a couple episodes, and I didn't really care for it, because it's not that it was because it was animated. It was just because once they told us hey, this isn't really going to tie into the MCU, I didn't really care. Like
And then it started tying into the MCU.
I mean, let's hope. But I don't know.
Dude, even
am
the
more.
theme parks tie into the MCU now. So
Yeah, but like,
And to What If?
look,
I don't know.
We got zombie cap in the theme parks,
right? Like,
Yeah.
it's gonna
Okay.
be weird.
All right.
Like,
Yeah, but like that's
Yeah.
a pull. That's a very obscure pull. Like we kind
for
of
sure
got
disagree.
zombie Iron Man from No Way Home. So no, sorry, Far From Home. So
Far From
like
Home, yeah.
it kind of like it's not that big of a stretch, you know?
Mhm. Yeah, I'm very.
We're
interested
getting
to see
Marvel
what happens
Zombies
with
now
it.
that I'm back on this. Is Marvel Zombies happening this year or next year?
I think it's next
Marvel
year.
Zombies it should be next year.
See, that I'm very interested to see that because I really hope it's more classic Marvel Zombies. I don't think it will be, but I hope.
See,
It would be an
worry-
interesting. Sorry, go ahead. No,
No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I was
No,
just
go
gonna say I think that would be an interesting thing to watch. Like, yes, of course, it's not tied to the MCU, but it's not
Doesn't need to be.
exactly. It doesn't need to be. It's just a pure like, hey, this is the story we're giving you, pulled from another universe. Like, this is what's happening.
It's a thing
Yeah.
that's talked about a lot with DC especially of not everything needs to be canon. Some things can just exist to be cool.
Now you see.
I think the
that's
MCU
right.
needs a label like that. Like this is just going to exist off in its own multiverse little thing, and it can be its own thing and have a good time.
That said, make
The thing that turned me off of, the thing that turned me off of What If Season 1 and worries me with What If Season 2 and Marvel Zombies is honestly the animation style. In that we've gotten Star Wars Visions and we just got the announcement of Season 2, which studios are going to be directing or producing the episodes for Star Wars Visions Season 2.
Which, if you're
May
an
the
animation
4th. Check
nerd,
it out
is one
here
of the
probably.
if you're an animation nerd, that is one of the most hype images ever.
Mm-hmm. So the thing that bothered me with What If was the animation style. I wasn't a fan. I really like some of the older Marvel animation style, and I wasn't really a fan of this like pseudo 3D blocky style that they used in What If, and they're using that again with Season 2 and with
is to be expected.
Zombies. It is to be expected, but I would have loved
I think
more
they're
of
gonna
a
change something
Star
that
Wars
works.
Visions approach.
I think Zombies
hope
is going to be
so.
a slightly more stylized version.
Yeah,
Because
I
that's
hope
how
so.
it was in the actual episode. Where
Yeah.
it was more stylized to be a zombie show.
Yeah,
So-
and I
For
hope we
me,
get more
I
of
thought
that.
the animation style was actually, I really liked it, personally. I think it really played well to it being a Disney Plus show, to it being a show that's going to get screenshotted a lot. Like, I think that there was a lot of decisions behind going with that particular art style, and I think it was fine. I don't think it was, like, mind-blowing by any stretch of the imagination. It's not some ridiculously special animated shows like some of the other ones out there that, like, look so good that you are shocked. Shout out to the Owl House. That's not even one of those shows that I'm like kind of shocked by. I just have to shout out the Owl House.
Every time.
I don't know. I'm interested to see what's coming here. I know, like, obviously we will be getting, to tie it back in, we're going to be getting more Ant-Man episodes in that. We are going to be getting more episodes about everyone in there. But what excites me about What If Season 2 in particular is it seems like not everything is going to be this decision they made in Season 1 where it's every episode has to be tied to one of the movies in the MCU.
Yeah. And I'm okay with that.
And it
I am
seems
too.
like
As
they're not going to
there
do
is
it.
still some central thread like there was in Season 1 with the conflict between the Watcher and Ultimate
right.
Ultron, whatever we wanted to call him.
And we know a couple of the
Which-
episodes we're getting already, which I think is very,
Yeah.
very interesting.
Well, we're getting the one that we didn't get in Season 1 with Gamora and Tony on Sakaar, right?
Mm-hmm. And we also know that we're going to be getting a Winter Soldier episode with Captain Carter.
Ooh,
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Interesting. I do have one random question for you guys.
Shoot.
Now, I have been trying to, as a person who can't stand the X-Men side of Marvel, I have been trying to wrap my brain around how in the hell this is going to be possible that they're bringing the X-Men into the Marvel universe. So, as a person, like I said, I didn't watch the X-Men TV show when I was younger, and every time I try to watch an X-Men movie, I just like I can't do it to myself. Like I would rather literally watch. Let's go with I'm gonna say What If Season 1.
Fair enough.
Fair.
Multiple times than watch an X-Men movie. I
Let's
just
say Thor
don't
the
get
Dark
it.
World.
Yeah, I would also say I would rather watch Thor the Dark. I would rather watch Eric Bana as
Here's the
the
thing.
Hulk.
Thor the Dark World, while bad, is not as bad as people say it was. Hulk is
It's
as
really
bad as people say
Hulk
it
is bad.
was.
Yeah. Still, like the Hulk movie with Edward Norton is way better than Thor 1.
No, I'm on that team that's like very excited.
I'm with you on that one too.
I don't know. I just don't see like the way that they put it with the Sentinels in the X-Men universe. I don't know how they're gonna pull that off with.
I don't think Sentinels
like,
are going to be part of it. Sentinels are
think at
not
all?
a part of major X-Men canon anymore.
Really? Because every show they have is
X-Men
full
canon
of
is
these
weird
fucking
right now.
Sentinels.
Ever since they started doing the Krakoa stuff, it has been very,
The whole
very weird.
House of X stuff.
And like I really like where the X-Men are at right now. I think it has shined some very fun lights on some of these characters. Like Charles Xavier is horrible. Charles Xavier.
I was gonna say that's another
is a
terrible
villain.
human that they're gonna put in the MCU. Yeah.
Like Charles is a villain, Beast is a villain. It's very weird. So I could see them going the Krakoa route. Another route I could see them going, what with all the Kang stuff happening, maybe a multiverse story. I could see them doing time travel.
Yeah, I think time travel is going to be fantastic for.
I think time travel, especially with the X-Men's history with time travel,
is
Days
of
a
Future
very
Past.
interesting way to go about it.
Oh, we don't need another Days of Future Past.
Well, so
movie.
it wouldn't be. It would be. There is. What is the X-Men? There was an X-Men run where like the current X-Men brought the original X-Men into their current time, and it's one of my favorite X-Men comics because it's great. It was the reveal of Iceman being gay. It was Jean Grey like actually being a very interesting, really good character as a kid. Like she was kind of just there in the original.
What you're saying is the opposite of Dark Phoenix.
Yeah, and you have Marvel Girl being the leader of these young X-Men when she gets pulled into when they get pulled into the future and all this.
They also have one of the best mutants on their team, X-23.
Okay. All right.
It was a very.
I would be very interested to see if they go the X-23 route with the MCU Wolverine as opposed to doing Logan's story.
I hope they do. I hope they go the Laura route. Laura is a much more interesting Wolverine than Logan.
I think that's the only way you pull off not bringing what's his face into the MCU.
Hugh Jackman, who's
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman. Yeah, I do think the only character it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Secret Wars because I expect Deadpool 3 to set up Deadpool being in the MCU, like the canon MCU. I don't think Logan makes the trip. It does sound like this whole thing is going to be like a buddy cop journey through the multiverse with Deadpool and Logan. But since it's some tangent to the original Logan timeline, either he plops him back down there before he heads to the MCU, or he ends up dead on some tangent universe, but it doesn't actually impact the main core Logan story. Because that was Hugh Jackman's thing, is he wasn't going to come back to portray this character if it impacted the ending of Logan in any way, which I think was really smart of him.
Yes, but which is also why I think he just gets plopped back into the Logan.
Yeah. So I think Deadpool comes over. I think we'll see. No, I see what's we're going to get Secret Wars. I think that is where all of these worlds will kind of smush together and you'll get, Sean Ashmore and Hugh Jackman and you're going to get
also the person
friggin' Kelsey Grammer as Beast. You're going to get Kelsey Grammer as Beast.
I still say I don't know about Kelsey Grammer as what?
Think I could see Hugh Jackman.
Oh yeah, Kelsey Grammer played Beast in the third X-Men movie.
No, I'm going to tell you right now, Kelsey Grammer is not coming back for an X-Men movie.
I mean, just for Secret Wars, I think that is going to be like this cameo moment of bringing together all these other universes. You get Toby back, you get Andrew back, and that Secret Wars is going to be the reset.
Honest,
maybe Nicholas Hoult.
They have everything.
I hope they don't. I hope they don't go that far. I hope that we get a little bit. We get the nods to them. I hope we get some of them.
Cage is Johnny Blaze.
It's not fucking happening.
Do it.
No, it can't happen. It can't happen.
Look, there's some
they already
characters
transferred it.
There's some characters that we know we're gonna get, right? Like we know we're gonna get. We are probably gonna get the Fox X-Men. We're probably gonna get these nods. I'm sure Andrew.
We're gonna get Toby and Andrew.
Like
Toby and
Yes,
Andrew.
Toby and Andrew.
They cannot go much further than that, though. At some point, it's that issue that the Marvel always has. It's just a cameo fest at that point. There's no story. It's just cameos, and they've taken that criticism. They recognize that criticism, and they're trying to change that. That said, the writer on that, who is god awful, and I hate him so fucking much.
Jesus.
He's the guy who wrote Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. He's just kind of a piece of shit.
Well, Griffin just is really upset with how American Chavez was handled.
Wrote it.
That I also just don't like.
I think I have it here. Michael Waldron. Michael Waldron is the screenwriter on Secret Wars.
I have a lot of issues with Michael Waldron outside of American Chavez.
Also, notable works on Loki and Rick and Morty.
Interesting.
More reasons. Because I'm saying my dislike of Michael Waldron started at Loki. It did not start with America.
I know.
I want that out there on the record. But I could see them going to Cameo Fest. I think it will not be good though if they do that.
See, I could see them doing the Cameo Fest, but in a way that isn't heavy-handed. You see Johnny Blaze in the background, and it looks the way that Nick Cage did in that movie. Like, it doesn't need to be heavy-handed to still be a part of the way that story is being told. Or you have 15 different Johnny Blazes as like a Ghost Rider squad or something, and one of those
they had the spirit the Riders of Vengeance in the Secret Wars, so I could see them doing stuff like that. But I don't.
And you just have Johnny Blaze and Sam Elliott in there because
they
why
can't
not?
Do Secret
Johnny
Wars
Blaze
the way
has
the comic
already
books
been.
did. Like the
No,
comic
they
books
can't.
took Secret Wars, and it was a multi-month long event with 36 spin-offs about different stories within it, and then one main.
I mean, this is going to be like a 4.5 hour Marvel movie.
No,
And Secret Wars is going to be
and
no
if it's
joke.
that, it's not going to be good.
I think
I'm gonna love it.
I honestly, if it's going to be a 4.5 hour movie, I think they should have just broken it up into two.
I still think they
I think
might.
it'll be a
Honestly,
three.
once they have it written, I still think they might do Secret Wars Part 1 and Part 2.
I hope so, because
I
that
don't think they
would just
will.
be phenomenal.
I think Secret Wars
I
is
mean-
going to be the. I'm still of the opinion that Secret Wars is going to be the fallout from King Dynasty.
Yes. I think so. Let me just say this. I do want to say I don't think we're going to get all of the X-Men that came out in these past X-Men movies. I think we'll probably get Hugh Jackman. We'll probably get Deadpool. We'll probably get one of the Professor X's.
You'll get Nicholas Hoult as the Beast.
Let's be
Yeah,
honest, if we're going to get X-Men, we're going to get Sir Patrick Stewart.
I don't think
getting
we
him.
already got him.
They already
We
did.
got
Yeah,
him.
but we're going to
We
get him
already
again
got
because
him.
people love his ass. And
I
I'm one of
don't
those
know.
people. I love that man.
I don't
Do
know.
we
I
get
think they
multiple
probably
Reed
would.
Richards? Do we get John Krasinski and whoever they cast as Reed Richards in the MCU?
I still think they're casting Jonathan Krasinski.
I don't think they are. I think
John Krasinski.
I hope they don't. I want them to go younger with the
I
Fantastic
think he
Four
might
because that
be
needs to
more
be
of a director-esque role.
No.
There's no way. Come on, he was.
What they're
perfect
going
in
to
that.
do with John Krasinski is they're going to have a younger Fantastic Four, and John Krasinski is going to play the evil Mr. Fantastic from the Ultimate Universe, whose name I forget. The Thinker.
You see?
Yes, thank you. So
I
he will
think-
play a variant of our Reed Richards
So here's the thing:
as
if
the
we
villain
get like
of some
this,
future
like,
film.
all these variants and that whatnot, you think there's one that I would love, and that is James Marsden as Cyclops, just so I can continue to make
God.
James Marsden Cyclops.
James
suits.
Marsden is so good, and I feel so bad that he got that version of Cyclops.
I just want to keep making jokes about him being Cyclops.
I just want a good
God.
Cyclops. Is that too much to ask?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Cyclops is
Cyclops
not a
sucks.
good character. Nobody gives a
Cyclops
shit
is
about
a good
Cyclops.
character because he can be a shitty person.
Cyclops
people
is
make
only
compelling
a good
characters.
character. No.
I
The
do
only reason
wanna
why
go
we
back
have
to-
Cyclops
For just a second,
is
do y'all remember the Sonic the Hedgehog 2 at like the press circuit where the entire thing was just Ben Schwartz referring to James Marsden as James Marsden, who played Cyclops in X-Men.
I don't remember
The
that. but yeah,
entire,
that's fine.
the entire promo cycle for that. Every
That's
time
perfect.
he talked about James Marsden, he would very
Perfect.
specifically say James Marsden, who plays Sonic, who plays Cyclops.
Of course, it's perfect. I think I forgot what we were talking about. We don't want the only reason why there is a Cyclops is because there has to be a love triangle between Cyclops, Wolverine, and Jean Grey. That's it.
Which is like 9 times out of 10 extremely creepy.
Yeah, because Wolverine's a like
I think
150-year-old
Cyclops can
man.
be done well, and I expect the MCU's X-Men to do Cyclops justice.
I want to tell you right now, I don't even think Cyclops is going to show up in the first X-Men movie.
I don't think the first X-Men movie is going to be an X-Men movie.
I was gonna say my money would still be on either a single mutant specific movie. I mean, there was that rumor about I think it was called the Mutants, and it was just kind of slice of life of the X-Men kind of deal. I would put more money on a team like New Mutants than I would on X-Men proper.
X-Force.
I don't think X-Force.
I meant like a proper X-Men team up movie.
Yeah, I still think New Mutants has a better chance at being that first shot than the.
I don't think whatever the first team up is going to be called X-Men. I don't think they're going to focus on Xavier. I don't think they're going to focus on the team, and eventually they will build to that the way that they built to Avengers in Phase 1.
But you understand what I'm saying. I don't think
yeah. I still like my original theory, which was the first introduction would be something like Wolverine, which I could very much see them doing. Wolverine have a standalone Wolverine MCU movie as your kickoff to all of this, right? And at the end of it, he has some major confrontation, right? In let's just say New York, but major city type area. Then we get a scene,
and we're introduced to Giancarlo Esposito as Professor X, and the internet explodes.
I was gonna say, well, here is my theory of how this was, and I do think it will be Wolverine. At the end, there's going to be someone, because it's a running joke that Wolverine is on 24 teams. It's going to be someone from the Avengers, or someone tries to recruit him. He's going to say, "No thanks, I have a team already." See him on his bike pulling into the X Mansion, and there you go. That's all
honestly,
you need.
Griffin. That's perfect. That is perfect. I will say that if anything, it's definitely going to be Wolverine as the first introduction, because we already got it already. Technically, we got it in She-Hulk.
True.
I do think our first mutant solo project will not be Wolverine. I think it's going to be Namor. I think we get a Namor project before we get an X-Men.
I can see
Fox
that, but I don't know
project.
that would very correctly technically be mutants.
Thank you.
So
on the most technical level possible, that's not going to be related to the X-Men.
I have Gambit. Maybe we finally get that Gambit movie we've all wanted, not starring Channing Tatum.
I already did some research on that Gambit movie.
We've lambasted Ruben for that one already.
No. I do have one question for you. Now, what do you think of, I still think they should have done this, but what do you think of I was going to say an X-Men, of a Marvel MCU movie that focuses on the villain? So, for instance, my thought process was, give us the origin story of Kang.
That would be interesting. There's one villain.
I think that's what Kang Dynasty is going to be, honestly.
Yeah, but focusing he's the main character.
I mean, Loki is already the kind of our show about a villain. We are also getting what's the Thunderbolts.
We're also getting the Marvels, which will probably tie into Kang
if we
stuff
get
too,
any,
right?
Let's just say standalone movie about a villain.
Silver Surfer.
It's going to be Doctor Doom.
Yeah, would be great.
I still think it could be Magneto. Going back to our X-Men talk, I think Magneto's solo project would be really grim.
But seriously, with Doctor Doom, it is I'm still convinced that the next big villain. I thought for sure the next big villain after Thanos was going to be
Doctor Doom.
I thought for sure it was not going to be Kang. I think Secret Invasion is going to set up Doom as a big villain, because we know we're getting Fantastic Four before that.
Yeah, I don't think he's the villain in that movie. I think they set him up to be the big bad of Phase 6.
I'm going to tell you, after that, I could tell you that he's the big bad of whatever saga comes after the multiverse saga.
Yeah.
See, I agree and disagree
immediately with Doom.
See, I think Doom sets up the next big bad. I don't think Doom is the next big bad, because I do think the next big bad is related to the Fantastic Four. But it gets to what Ruben said. It's a Silver Surfer movie. You set up Galactus. Galactus is that next.
Well, to be fair, I called this years ago, where I thought where I thought let me tell you what I was gonna say. I thought that the end of Endgame, it was just gonna be Thanos going up to just some random, not some random, but like, you know how in Loki going up to Thanos in the end of Avengers, I thought that was gonna be kind of the case where Thanos is like reporting back to God, I forgot his name. Yeah, there you go. Galactus. And it's just like, yeah, I'm sorry.
See, I don't know if you can do
Oh, that's
Galactus again. I feel like
I think they have
the
to do
original
Galactus and they have to
Fantastic
do it
Four
right.
Silver Surfer did Galactus so dirty that like Galactus isn't really used that much anymore.
I know, but I think that they could do it so, like, again, going back to Earth's Mightiest Heroes, they did such a good job of Galactus in a single episode that I think you give Kevin Feige 6 movies and 15 Disney Plus series to set up Galactus as a big bad, and Galactus is a big bad.
Yes, absolutely. But they also kind of set it up in a way with the Eternals.
Yeah.
With what's his name? Tiamat? No.
Tiamat, yeah.
Tiamat.
Just like taking
just the Celestials.
Yes, the Celestials in and of themselves, just taking like that was a perfect setup, and I could definitely see them taking that plus all the other things that we've gotten sprinkled into Guardians of the Galaxy and a couple other stuff of just like Galactus just kicking ass and taking names.
I still can't believe we haven't gotten acknowledgement of the Celestial that's just dead in the ocean. And I know that's rumored to be the plot of the next Captain America movie.
No, that's rumored to be the plot of the Thunderbolts.
Was it Thunderbolts? I thought it was Cap too.
It was yes. The answer is yes to both of those things. It has rumored to actually be a thing for
one or
that
the
people
other,
are going to actually start addressing. Also, it was addressed. It's just very, very subtly addressed in a news article in She-Hulk.
That doesn't count. Wolverine was addressed in a news article in She-Hulk, which is our introduction to Wolverine in the MCU, the same way Ant-Man, getting back to the movie we're actually talking about,
which is also funny.
A dude who can crawl on walls.
Yeah, but it's also funny because that's also the reference in She-Hulk was kind of also a reference to the Insomniac game trailer that we saw for Wolverine. Yep. I just found that funny.
Dude gets into a bar fight.
Yeah.
So I want to throw out one more idea as like a massive big bad, and then we do need to wrap this up. We've been just BSing about the future of Marvel for the last hour.
Yeah, this hasn't been Ant-Man. This has been MCU multiverse saga in review.
The thumbnail for this is going to be Ant-Man, kind of.
Yeah.
Maybe. Let me throw out a villain for you that I think would be extremely interesting. And the reason I think this villain would be extremely interesting is this is the major villain the Avengers have been facing comic book wise for the last couple of years. What if they make Mephisto a full saga level villain? And they really just go for it.
That could be good.
It's hard to, at least for me, it's difficult to do Mephisto without having the full rights to Spider-Man. Because Mephisto has been so integral to some of the worst moments in the history of Spider-Man's life. Yeah, if you can't play that out well, then I'm kind of concerned about it
Mephisto's
in general.
Like pastime. It's just fucking with Peter Parker.
Yeah. And if you don't have Mephisto fucking with Peter Parker, who's going to fuck with? Because everyone else in the MCU doesn't have a goddamn secret identity.
But I still think Mephisto could be an interesting thing of like, it was very much one of those things of like, I think it was it Loki? No, it was WandaVision. And then like that one scene in Loki where they had the stained glass window.
So I'm just going to put it out there. I think Mephisto,
think so, especially with all of the spooky stuff we've been
also
getting.
Also with Agatha getting a series.
Yes, Agatha. I think you're going to do something with Wiccan at some point. Like this is all going to end up tying back to some Mephisto thing with Scarlet Witch.
I think Mephisto is going to be the one villain that they actually leave like as a prolonged villain, where like he might get away in the first movie that he gets introduced to. So like if we put him in Fantastic Four, he might just like fuck. There's something he can do. He got away. Yes.
I would love that.
I would love that as well.
I have theorized that Mephisto and Scarlet Witch could be the catalyst for Secret Wars in the way that Doom and was it the Beyonder were heavily involved in the initial plot of the Secret Wars story in the comics. And if they're going to follow that closely. A Mephisto in Agatha or House of Harkness, whatever it's going to be called, and then or Coven of Chaos. And then that setting up Scarlet Witch's return to be the catalyst for the universe ending for Secret Wars could be an interesting route to go.
On that note, if Wanda is going to be playing the role of the Beyonder, then I'm going to need Peter Parker to give her a cheeseburger the same way Miles gives the Beyonder a cheeseburger. One of my favorite plot points in all of Secret Wars. It's very stupid. The only reason Miles survives is because he gave the Beyonder a cheeseburger. That is still hilarious to me.
Hey.
No, with that, we do need to wrap up this show. We have been BSing about Marvel for too long.
Give me a Cable movie. I want Cable to be a good thing and not what we got in Deadpool
Cable
2.
sucks. No.
Cable sucks, but in a way that I would love to see portrayed in film.
I will also say, to put on record, Deadpool 2 sucks. It's not a good movie. I'll say that here and there.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but you're
Deadpool 1, also a mediocre movie.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
I really like it, but
like I think the hype
really
behind
fun,
that movie
but...
was the hype behind
Deadpool 2 as well, but no,
the
we're
hype
wrapping this up.
Deadpool.
We're ending the podcast.
Okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Otherwise, we're gonna be here the rest of the night.
I'm okay with that.
I mean, you're saying that like it's a bad thing.
Yes, exactly.
I have things I need to do. I'm sorry.
Okay, all right. That's fair. That's fair.
Oh yeah, Last of Us is on in 15 minutes. We gotta wrap this up.
Oh yeah.
Oh shit,
okay.
yeah.
With that out of the way, Ruben, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Of course,
I'm sure
it was
we'll have
a pleasure.
you back again. Don't BS about whatever happens next. Where can people find you?
People could find me on Twitter at Pen Conquest, on YouTube, the Penultimate Conquest, and that's pretty much it. Twitch sometimes, I guess we stream on there as well, and that's pretty much it. The Penultimate Conquest.
Go check out
click those links in the thing on the video or on the podcast or on the everything where you listen to us.
Yeah.
Go check out them over there. Them over there. I say like I don't pop up every once in a while.
Only when you need to talk about Disney Dreamlight Valley, because I've stopped you from doing it here.
That reminds me.
That's
you
okay.
Come onto the game show and talk about Disney Dreamlight Valley again.
That's totally fine, man. We're happy to have you on. Okay.
I'm not sure you're going to be saying that. If I actually,
I also want to talk to you about that thing that you mentioned beforehand, before the show. So, yes.
All right, folks, that is all we got for this week, but we do have plenty of stuff happening. You know, we do have our weekly series about National Treasure. We do have other episodes going up. We got that hype for Quantumania coming soon. We will be talking about that. We should be having an episode coming up soon about The Last Jedi.
Is it a great movie?
Riding that Star Wars hype into Mando Season 2, which we will be talking about weekly. But before any of that comes out, Mitch, if people wanted to keep up with us, where can people find us?
At D+Us, everywhere you can find things of people talking about things on the internet. That's YouTube, TikTok. That's pretty much it. TikTok. Twitter. Twitter is another thing. Yeah, at D+Us everywhere. Griffin and I are over on places at GriffidDpad, GriffidPad. I'm all over the internet. Mr. Mitch George, links at MitchGeorge.com. That is all we've got. Thank you for hanging out on this kind of sort of Ant-Man episode. It really wasn't. It wasn't. This Marvel episode. We will see y'all next time, but until then, have a magical day. Excelsior.